Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So if I may start with the introduction. So my lifelong goal has been to, and continues still to be, one of seeking meaning about this world, my place within it and the path I must take. In this pursuit, I essentially seek inner peace, which here means truth. When I wrote the book, there were no Kung Fu Panda yet, so forgive me for that inner peace. So by truth, I mean a conception of the world that is logical. Again, I found Islam quite logical, practical, and universal, meaning encompassing of all disciplines and all beings. So I hope that this truth will give me the satisfaction of having made the right choice and of being on the right path. And since I doubt that I'm the only one looking for this kind of reassurance, I'm here sharing my experience. So it's really, the point is really to share my experience. I had some objectives, and that's the collection of all this journey. So since a young age, I was immersed in the world of so-called hard sciences, meaning math, physics, chemistry, and biology. This socialization was initiated by the scientists and teachers within my family. So I had my uncle, for example, who was a scientist in one of the research center in Paris. So he was highly influential because he was already able to convey a view of the world that was different. And by the way, most of my family are somehow involved in teaching. Most of them in like high school level, but still involved in teaching. So we valued the knowledge and the acquisition of knowledge. Unfortunately, again, that knowledge is most of the time secular. So that secularity asked me to make a choice later on. So through these studies, I learned about the material world and about its governing laws. But my background is far from being devoid of religiosity. I come from a place where the church is still the highest building in the town and in the neighboring towns. The bell tower is the highest building, literally. So you see it from far, it's obvious. And the bells ring every hours, at least. And where if you walk across the hills, you see chapels, stone crosses, and that are scattered throughout. So I was understandably raised as a practicing Christian, going to the church twice a week at least, and occasionally serving as the altar boy, like next to the priest. However, beside the context of the church, religion was never really made relevant in my everyday life. So the church, or my religion, was in the church. As soon as you step out of the church, you become the small boy who can play again and do other things. So these monuments, rituals, were only vestiges of a past that was made obsolete by science. That's how I see it. Indeed, with the modern sciences being in direct conflict with some of the Christian texts, when taken literally, I quickly left aside all religious practices and opted for a type of agnosticism, meaning that I still believed in some God, but I would doubt even the existence of Jesus, for example. Why? Because there's no historical proof of his having lived. So I used to take the Bible as a compilation of good morals, ethics, but the source of it was really shady. So the religious morality and norms were still part of my mindset. But when it came to making sense of this world, I was conditioned to make science prevail over all other conceptual framework. To give a bit more insight about that, it's like through science, you learn to value precision, accuracy, numerical accuracy, to value anything that can be measured, that is objective. And the rest, you tend to dismiss it. Like your subjectivities, you tend to dismiss them, to negate them. However, religion is mostly about how you feel and how to realize God, for example, through this materiality. But that's really a subjective endeavor. So if you dismiss subjectivities, then you, in a way, dismiss all the spirituality. You dismiss the essence of religion. Continuing. On the way to becoming a scientist, however, I realized that science was not as hard as I initially thought it was, as I initially learned it was. When you go to high school, science is pretty hard. You have Newton's law, you have quantum mechanics, you have relativity, and these are haq, they are truth. But then when you progress in science, you understand that no, these are just explanations, they fit, not all data even, they work, and that's why you keep them. So they become a bit softer. So during these studies, I also had the chance to travel and discover various cultures and mentalities. Interestingly, out of all my experiences, only spirituality has allowed me to achieve a peace of mind and a sense of satisfaction that transcends the challenges of this life in a way that is lasting and all-encompassing. By this, I mean that it gives reassurance. Once you start believing, and what you see around you start confirming the belief, it gives reassurance, it gives strength, confidence. And with that confidence, then you can tackle your challenges in life. You can relate them to God, to something beyond this materiality, and that gives strength more than any other activities. To give a tangent, which is the point of these videos, I remember presenting these arguments to my colleague once. And one of my colleagues, good friend of mine, was telling me, yeah, but inner peace, I can achieve it by doing sport. I do sport, I'm like pumped up with adrenaline, and it gives me peace and reassurance and confidence. So why should I bother with religion? And true, that's true, I totally agree. But how lasting it is? It lasts as long as you can do sport. What if you cannot do sport? What if you have an accident and cannot run anymore? Then you have to find it somewhere else. The only other thing that gives me that reassurance, regardless of my condition, is religion. So it is only during my postgraduate studies that I was invited to Islam. I was attracted by its apparent logic and practicality. It was quite practical. Like, don't drink alcohol because you lose your mind. Don't eat things that are nocive for your health. Be nice to your parents. Be kind to your surrounding. Take care of people around you, animals, nature. It made sense. It was logical and quite practical. And again, with that direction connection to God, it was quite straightforward and quite pleasing. So as soon after my conversion, I had the opportunity to learn about the different aspects of this religion alongside local and international scholars. Alhamdulillah, this I'm really fortunate. We had scholars in the vicinity within Indianapolis, good scholars, mashallah. Through private lessons, public lectures, and various scholarly and recreational travels, like for holidays, I learned about Islam. About my conversion, you might ask, why? What made me convert? Or what was my context? So I was not lost, I was not depressed, I was happy. I was a happy university student, undergrad, free to do whatever he wants, with a salary provided by the university. I had friends, I was valued by my friends. I had all what someone could wish to have. That's how I felt. But I saw something even better.